Hey y'all, good day. Shana here again. We wanted to take a minute and talk about sustainability as a whole. What does it mean? Of course, sustainable is in the name of the course, so I think it's important that we go a little bit deeper into that. Today we're going to be talking about what sustainability is. Is it merely a buzzword? Let's get into the various definitions and interpretations of it. Second, we're going to talk about LCA. You might have heard this before. It's Lifecycle Analysis. And that's the quantitative look at how we could possibly measure if something would be sustainable, unsustainable, and anywhere on this spectrum, because it's not necessarily black and white. And lastly, we're going to delve into the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I like to call them the SDGs. This was a compilation of goals created by the UN in 2015 that applies both globally and locally. And let's talk about how we can apply some of those SDGs to our local context. All right, to get us going, let's think about sustainability as a combination of these three pillars, right? We've got socially just, economically viable, and environmentally sound. And only when a process or activity or product fulfills those three dimensions would we consider it a sustainable solution. And I think sustainability altogether means that we are creating some processes, some products, some activities in society that ensure the quality of life or improve the quality of life for future generations. So let's look at each one of these pillars individually. So environmental sustainability, right, is the use of our natural resources. Are we able to replenish them at the same rate that we're using them? Are we able to replenish them faster than we use them? I think that this whole concept of renewable energy and renewable resources falls here in the environmental sustainability pillar. Secondly, what methods are we using for collection? Are we clear-cutting forests? Are there methods to preserve the local diversity, the animal diversity, as we consume those resources? This definitely comes into mind when we're talking about harvesting crops, monoculture, like the way that we plant agricultural crops, in addition to mining, which would just be collection of natural resources in that way. And then lastly, thinking about outputs. During these processes, what pollutants, what other outputs are created? We've got to think about all of the inputs and outputs from any of the processes that make the products. And in this context will be the processes for making bioproducts and bioenergy. And next is social sustainability. I think typically this is the area that has got the least amount of attention, and it really is one of the areas that's most difficult to quantify. We're going to invite Dr. Yao in to talk about specific methods for quantifying social sustainability, but here we need to think about our human rights being considered, and are they being considered justly across populations? People's basic needs, are they attained? Are they able to keep their families and communities healthy and secure? And lastly, do we have community leaders with high moral character, integrity, who are making decisions to best support our future generations? And economic sustainability, I think we hear about this one quite a bit. Are our activities meeting the needs of society in a way that people will buy them? And can we produce in a way that is at a lower cost to create a profit, and therefore continuing the cycle of making more goods and services? Moving on to life cycle analysis. So again, with the inputs and outputs, I like to think of this example of the electric car. A lot of people have touted the electric car as this like end-all be-all solution. We're using electricity instead of fossil fuels to power our cars. But the whole issue is a lot more complicated than that. And I'm not saying electric cars are bad, I'm just saying we need to dive deeper into the whole process. Like, we need to look at the mining that goes on that is used to collect the lithium for the batteries of the electric car? What is the source of the electricity? Are we burning coal to produce the electricity that goes into the electric car? Or are we using hydro, which is a less impactful electricity source, right? So we've got to think about all the inputs that go into the process or the products, not just that product itself. So I think that would refer to our stage 1, resource extraction and materials processing and product manufacturing. Next is use. So in the case or example of the Prius, probably the use stage is a lower impact because we have no incomplete combustion and lower pollutants. But then we also have to consider the retirement or the disposal stage. Like, what are we doing with these batteries? Is there a way to recycle these components? And LCA is the quantitative analysis, so we can actually assign numbers to the inputs and outputs of each of these 5 stages and come up with a number or a value that gives us a relatively level of sustainability based on all the pillars for each product or process. When we think about the SDGs and connecting them to bioproducts and bioenergy, let's see if we can connect the Sustainable Development Goals to our bioproducts and bioenergy, or at least what we know about them already. There's some that are really obvious in connection. I'm seeing, okay, number 12, responsible consumption and production. So I'm going to circle that one. Which others? Affordable and clean energy, number 7. We know that our bioenergy will fall under that goal. Let's see, what else? Climate action. We know that the use of bioproducts can reduce our carbon footprint. We'll learn from Dr. Venditti about clean water and sanitation. If we're using bioproducts and bio-derived fibers, we won't have as many bioplastics in the water. So this might be a little bit more distant, but I definitely think it's connected. Let's see. Life on land, we can use, that one's tangentially connected. Decent work and economic growth. We know that there's a large sector in the economy for the bioeconomy, so I'll circle that one. So I think we can keep going through and making some of these connections between how bioproducts and bioenergy can influence our attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. So with that, I'd like you to look at a few resources as a supplement to this small lecture, one of which is just a little primer from McGill University talking about sustainability. The next is the details on the SDGs. I'd like you to read a little bit about each one and how they are connected. And lastly, a TED Talk by Michael Green discussing, are these goals even feasible? Of course, they're not perfect. What are some of the pitfalls, and how could we possibly attain these 17 goals by 2030? So after you've done that, have a little activity. This activity is looking at thinking globally and acting locally. I'd like you to pick one of the 17 goals, not number 2, but one of the others. And maybe think about which goals might pertain to bioproducts or bioenergy. So it could be sustainable product development, it could be clean energy sources, agriculture, food resources. I think there's lots of possibilities here. So select one SDG, read up on that selected goal at the provided resource link. And then for number 3 in the forum, please discuss how you can connect the goal that you selected to goal number 2, which is zero hunger. Think about what it would take, what it does take to provide 3 healthy meals per day in a family, and how that connects to the goal of your choosing. And then number 4, think about your local community. If there's any organizations or projects or initiatives that you know of or that you've been part of, Can you talk about those in the forum and connect them to the goal that you selected and goal number 2, zero hunger? I think that when everyone contributes to that forum, we're going to have a great list of North Carolina resources, and then some information about what people are doing in our community to address these 17 goals, even if they may not be aware that they're contributing to the UN's SDGs. I look forward to reading your posts. We'll talk more about this in the forums.